Welcome to MMA Therapy, your fix for all things MMA. I'm your host, James Mon. Tonight we got a great show. We're going to have Adam Fancy Pants Fritz and Brandon Campbell, both from the AFS Academy. They'll be talking to us about their upcoming fights on February the 7th at Trotter's Legacy. Then we'll have coverage from Turf Wars 23 at Florence, Kentucky. Our roving reporter, Eric Ellison, will have coverage from Fight Night Boston and Fight Night Stockholm, and much, much more. So let's get this fix started with this interview from Adam Fancy Pants Fritz. This is James Mon from MMA Therapy. I'm here at AFS Academy with Adam Fancy Pants Fritz, who's been preparing for his next fight. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. You're about a couple weeks away, February 7th, right here in your hometown of Richmond, for your next pro fight, your second pro fight. Tell us a little bit about it.
You know, I had my first pro fight here in Richmond as well. It's the first time I've been able to fight in my hometown. And it was a great experience. You know, all my friends and family that usually don't come because like the far drive and everything, they were able to come, you know. And the venue was literally 3 minutes away from my house. Like, it was right there. It's just maybe 2 miles away. So that was real handy. I didn't have to leave in like an hour and a half early to drive to Louisville or anything like that. And so I'm really excited to be able to fight again here in my hometown and just have the luxury of, you know, not having to stress about going places. I don't have to worry about making sure whenever I go to cut weight that, okay, I got to leave by this time, so I got to make sure I'm done cutting weight at this time. I could literally be cutting weight up until that 10 minutes before and then just drive there. So, you know, I'm real happy to be fighting here again. You know, all my friends, family, teammates coming out to support. I'm real excited for it.
Now, with the fight here in your hometown, you know, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of teammates and fans and stuff like that there. Does that put more pressure on you, or does that make it a little bit easier for you?
You know, I thought about that the first time I fought, and whenever my teammates, my coach, and myself, when we get to the venue, I don't even think about all my family and friends out there anymore. You know, I get there, my teammates are getting ready for their fights. I'm getting pumped for them. I get ready for mine. I'm getting amped up myself. The only time I really think about like my friends or family being out there is if I go to the bathroom and they just happen to be out there too. I'll say hi to them and then I'm back to my business. And then as soon as I get ready to walk out, I'm all amped up, ready to go. My music hits and I basically tunnel vision. I don't see anyone out there.
In the zone.
I'm in the zone.
I got you. Now, speaking of your teammates, you got several just fighting on the same card. Do you get more nervous when you're getting ready to fight or when they're getting ready to fight?
You know, a lot of people say they're teammates, but I'd get more nervous for mine. You know, man, it's not that I'm getting nervous, but usually I fight later than they do, and so I have to wait longer to fight.
Right.
And they go out there to fight, bam, all right, good, they're done. Whew, now I got to wait some more. And I'll wait. I don't know if the next fight's going to end in like 20 seconds or if it's going to go 3-5 rounds, you know. And so it's not really I'm nervous, but I get more anxious waiting for mine.
Gotcha. Now, recently you took a trip to California and did some training out there. Tell us a little bit about that, and was that in preparation for this fight?
Yeah, it was mainly like my teammate Brandon Campbell was fighting on this card, and we talking about, you know, we want to go on a big training trip. He'd never been on one. I went to Vegas this past year, and I had a wonderful time there, and so we were talking about it, and we wanted our coach to go, but, you know, it's around Christmas and everything like that, Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's. It's all big holidays, you know, all around one. So money can be tight. So we got the whole gym to come together and donate some money. Former, current students, you know, they all threw in some money. And we were able to get him a plane ticket. Brandon and I paid for the hotel. We paid for the rental car. The only thing he had to pay for was his food and gear, whatever he wanted to do. And so we surprised him with a big trip. We flew out to L.A., and you know, it was a great experience. The first place we went to train, well, Brandon did a grappling tournament out there like the day we got there or something. He got to do a grappling tournament out of HQ, the 10th Planet headquarters. But the first place we got to train the next day was Rain Training Center, and Mark Munoz led the pro MMA practice. And out there was a guy named Johnny Santamaria. He was the first flyweight bout in Bellator, and he won. He's a 10th Planet guy, and so we were out there doing pro practice with a Bellator pro. You know, obviously Mark Munoz is a UFC fighter, top contender there. There was another guy there, I can't remember his name, but he's in the UFC too. He actually fought that Saturday that we left. He actually fought there and he won. So we got the training right alongside some high-level people. We were treated as equals there. Then we went to the Tap Out HQ, or hardcore gym now, the 10th Planet headquarters. We got to train under Eddie Bravo himself. Got to roll with a lot of high-level guys. We went to 10th Planet Costa Mesa, where Tony Ferguson does part of his training. Got to work with his striking coach. We got to spar there, and we had a really, really great time. I'm trying to think. I don't think we went anywhere else. That might have been it. Might be forgetting somewhere, but you know, we went out there and we hung our own. You know, a lot of people go out there and they're like, a lot of people think, especially we're in little old Richmond, not much comes from here except for like a little party school, but we have a really, really, really good gym here.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Now, you know, talking about your gym, this is going to be on our first episode here, and you know, a lot of people know me. I used to be on West Virginia Fight Sports Radio, and the very first episode I ever did there, we actually interviewed one of AFS's students, Gina Begley. Now you're going to be on the first episode of this show here. What is it that you guys are doing here at AFS that's making you guys above the rest and keeps all the media attention here?
You know, we're winning for one, and we're producing a lot of really good fighters. You know, we have an excellent, and I can't stress this enough, how excellent our coach is. You know, through Scott Elliott, he gets information from wherever he can. If he thinks it's going to help our game, whether it comes from Savate, Muay Thai, Shuto, Sambo, Judo, wrestling, if there's something that he thinks can fit in our game, he'll bring it to us. You know, he does his research a lot. And so I think also, like you're talking about like media and stuff like that, I think we all can talk pretty well. We're all not out there, we're going to go out there and knock them out for ground, no, I'm saying, man, we don't talk like that. We're pretty punctual and everything. We have, you know, decent grammar and stuff. But, you know, we go out there, we put on exciting fights, we win. You know, I guess that's it.
That's pretty cool, man. All right, so 2015's here. Tell me a little bit about your fighting plans for 2015. Any certain organizations you want to do, certain titles you may want to go after, how many fights you want to do?
You know, I have this one coming up February 7th for Trotter's Legacy. After that, you know, I'm not 100% sure like what my plans are. I want to try to fight 3, 4, 5 times or so, and organization doesn't really, you know, it doesn't matter to me. Obviously, I want to start building up. I want to start going out of state. I want to start fighting some higher level guys because I know I'm at that level. You know, I know I can go out there and I can compete with the best of them. If not, and I know I can beat them too.
That sounds awesome. All right, man, this is where I give you your chance to give shout-outs to your teammates, training partners, or anybody else you'd like to thank just
Awesome.
got you ready for this.
I want to, you know, big shout-out to my coach, Scott Elliott, my training partners, all the people at the AFS Academy, you know, just right off the top of my head. You got Brandon Campbell, Dustin Short, Gina Begley, Emily Barty, Mike McCannon, Tyler Black, Zayd Hawkins. Just anyone who comes in, helps me get ready. Even if they let me drill an arm bar on them, bam, they help me. They help me get an extra rep of that arm bar. If, like, they're not even a member of the gym, but, like, they're family and they can come help support us, you know. Big shout-out to them. You know, big shout-out to my dad as well. You know, he's obviously, I live with my dad still. He helps cook my meals and everything, puts up with me whenever I start getting cranky during the weight cut. My other family, friends, and then my sponsors: Art Attack, Paddy Wagon, Bell & Couture, Richmond Pawn Shop, Richmond Outdoor, Paddy Wagon, Nuevo, and then, Liquor Mart.
Liquor Mart.
Yep.
All right, this is James Mon for MMA Therapy, here live at AFS Academy. We'll see you at the fights. Okay, that was Adam Fancy Pants Fritz. He'll be fighting February the 7th at Trotter's Legacy in Richmond, Kentucky. Our next guest will be fighting on the same night and the same card. So let's go to our next interview with Brandon Campbell. This is James Mon with MMA Therapy. I'm here at AFS Academy with Brandon Campbell. He's sitting here, he's been preparing for his next fight on February the 7th at Trotter's Legacy. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, man, we're a couple weeks away here in your hometown of Richmond. You're getting ready to go for your second title. You got an undefeated streak going. Tell us a little bit about the fight.
Really excited for this one. It's going to be my first time I get a fight in front of a lot of my friends. My family's been able to make it to a couple of them, but they live a little ways away from here, and it's even farther away from a lot of the events we go to. So I'm really excited that I'm going to have a lot of people there to support me for this one.
That sounds really good, man. Now, you got a 3-0 record. It's a great record, but not too many fights. Your opponent has quite a few more fights than you, maybe 3 times more than you. Are you worried about the experience of him at all?
I'm not worried about his experience level at all. I believe that my record does not reflect my skill level at all. I have had some other experience as well. I've had a couple Muay Thai fights, a boxing match, Sandshell match. So I've had a little bit more experience that doesn't quite show up on the record. And it's out there, everybody knows about it, or they should be able to find it. My fights are all posted on YouTube. We hide nothing here. But I do believe that my record does not reflect my skill set at all.
Okay. Now, you're 4-0, like I said, or 3-0.
3-0, right.
And all your fights have ended by stoppage in the first round. How's the gas tank if you have to go late round in decision?
In a couple of my striking matches, I've went all 3 rounds to decision, and I was still going pretty strong at the end of those. And typically, for a striking match, they're a little bit more intense than the MMA fights because you don't get to rest within the rounds. You'll see in a lot of MMA fights, you'll see them take mini breaks. Okay, I'm in the clinch, I'm going to take a rest for a second, and then they go. Where in a Muay Thai fight, if you stall at all, they break you up, then you have to fight immediately. So my gas tank is pretty good. I feel like it's just as good right now as it's ever been. My body's feeling good. I'm injury-free. I'm stayed healthy, so I think it'll be good for this one.
It sounds good, but, it is at home. You're probably going to try to make an exciting fight and end in the first round as normal.
I totally expect it to not get out of the first round. If it gets out of the first round, I'll be disappointed with myself.
Sounds good. Now, you train here at AFS Academy, and it's a really great school here in Kentucky. What's it mean to you to have all the support of this team behind you?
It's unlike anything I've ever been a part of. I've played on a lot of sports teams and things like that, and I truly believe I'm surrounded with world-class coaches and world-class people here at AFS.
Okay. Now, not looking past your opponent, but, a win here gives you your second title, and you're 4-0. How many wins do you think you want to rack up before you may think about turning pro?
It's something that I don't really want to rush into, turning pro. It's something that I want to do when the time is right. Now, whether that ends up me being 5 fights in or 25 fights in, we'll have to see. Obviously, I don't think it'll go to 25 fights. I think, like I said, my skill set is not reflected by my record. I feel like my skill set is a lot more advanced than a 3-0 record. So whenever my skill set's there, it'll be time to go, and it'll be a serious conversation to have with my coaches and make sure I have enough time to train and really put myself into it and devote myself to it. It's not something that I want to do to turn pro just to win one fight. I want to wait to turn pro and win all of my fights. It's not something I want to rush into. I want to do it and do it right and be successful at it.
That sounds good, man. All right, this is where I'll let you give your shout-outs to your teammates, training partners, sponsors, or anybody who's helped you get ready for this fight.
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout-out to all my teammates, Adam Fritz, Dustin Short, Tyler Black, Emily Barty, Mike, Zaid, everybody that's came in to help me prepare for the fight, and, of course, my coach, Scott Elliott. We think he's the best coach around and best gym around here. Also, Gina Begley, I think I forgot her.
All right, this is James Mon for MMA Therapy here at AFS Academy. That was Brandon Campbell from the AFS Academy. He's preparing for his Trotters Legacy fight on February the 7th. Now we're going to change pace a little bit and go to some fight coverage. Our coverage from Turf Wars 23. This is James Mon for MMA Therapy. Turf Wars 23 held in Florence, Kentucky on Saturday, January 24th. It was the promotion's first fights of 2015, and MMA Therapy was in the house for all the coverage. With 9 total fights on the card, 7 amateur and 2 professionals, it delivered once again. There was 2 very exciting amateur title fights where we got our fight of the night and our knockout of the night. The big news of the night was being Sean Asher's comeback from retirement. The last time we saw him was in Florence a little over a year ago, and he came back just the way he left with a win. So if you missed out on Turf Wars 23, Sorry to hear that, but you missed a good card. For the results, we go straight into the amateurs fights. Chris Riley 1-1 versus Randy Robbins 4-5. Winner was Chris Riley by submission strikes at 241 in round number 1. Then we had Jordan Robinson 1-2 versus Evan Braden 2-2. Winner Jordan Robinson by unanimous decision. All 3 judges had it 30-27. Then we had Terrence Owen with an 0-0 record versus Grant Cantazaro 1-1. Winner was Grant Cantazaro by submission, rear naked choke, 225 of round number 1. Dylan Ferris making his debut versus Justin Smith, also a debut. Winner was Dustin Smith by submission, rear naked choke at 138 of round number 1. Zachary White 0-5 versus Charles Sharon 0-2. The winner, Zachary White by TKO knee strikes at 153 of round number 1. Then we had Stephen Scott 5-1 versus Evan Samad. This was our first amateur title fight of the night. Winner was Evan Samad, unanimous decision, all 3 judges 30-27. Our second amateur title fight was short but sweet. Zachary Barker 4-0 versus Scott Wegman 6-2. The winner was Zachary Barker, knockout by head kick, 28 seconds of round number 1. Then we got to our professional fights. We had Stephen Bell versus Billy Horn. Stephen 3-3 and Billy was 12-4. Billy's been on a roll lately and he kept it going tonight. He won by submission with a triangle choke at 209 of round number 1. Our main event, Kelly Pennington 2-7 versus Sean Asher, the comeback kid, at 7-1. Sean Asher with a big win. TKO to strikes at 141 of round number 1. MMA Therapy awards of the night, fight of the night, went to Stephen Scott versus Evan Samad. Submission of the night was Billy Horn's triangle choke over Stephen Bell. And then the knockout of the night was Zachary Baker's knockout of Scott Wegman. This is James Mon for MMA Therapy with all your event coverage. That was coverage from Turf Wars 23 in Florence, Kentucky. Now we're going to change it from local to the big show, and we're going to take it out to Eric Ellison for his coverage of UFC Fight Night in Boston.
What's up, guys? Eric, man, back with MMA Therapy, man, here looking back on this UFC Boston card one more time before we get into tonight's Gus versus Rumble match. It's going to be very exciting, man. A lot of video stuff coming your way, so stick with us. Wanted to touch on mostly the main event on this card. It had a great prelim card with Matt Van Buren, and the second prelim card that they do these days was really good, also on Fox Sports 1. We had John Howard and Lawrence Larkin, which was an awesome fight, that first round TKO. Something that Larkin definitely needed. I believe he had lost his past 3 fights. So this was a big win for him. He's an exciting fighter. He's one of those guys that, you get that feeling that the UFC wants to keep him around, but in order to do that, you got to win, at least sometimes. There's always place in the sport for exciting fighters. I'm sure most everybody strives to be the champion, but those gatekeeper guys and exciting fighters and personalities, they all have their place. So awesome fight, man. We got to see Patrick Houlihan, which I guess we now call him Paddy Houlihan since the Irish thing's in effect. He brought it in. He fought Shane Howell. It was a good fight. Paddy's known for his submission skills, man. He's won almost all his fights via submission. He was undefeated up until his fight before this. So, training with Conor McGregor, he comes in and gets another W. It's big that it's in Boston with so many people watching, both, really around the world. So big for him in the flyweight division. I would say, He does need to continue to work hard if he wants to bust into that elite scene. But it was a good showing, and there's nothing wrong with catching one of these. So shouts out to him, of course, man. One of the fights that I thought was really exciting was the, I mentioned a second ago, was the Matt Van Buren and Sean O'Connell fight, man. Holy crap. It was like reminiscent of some big boy Chris Lieben action. You know, you had a just back and forth match, man. It looked like O'Connell was out of there, man, and he was gassing. Things were going his way, and he just kept going and plodding forth and punching to this great comeback at the end. It was a great fight, and I think it really kind of set the tone and the pace for the rest of the evening. You know, Boston delivered, man. I think on the card had 5 TKO finishes, which is pretty big. For a UFC event these days, we get a lot of decisions. So, you know, I think that whole vibe was it was really kicked off by Sean O'Connell, man. So shouts out. And if you haven't seen that fight, make sure to go do it, man, because it is a great one. Moving on, we had Norman Park take his first defeat against Gleason Tebow in a fight that I enjoyed it. I mean, these are two guys that can be exciting. They can be not exciting. They both can grind. They're both pretty well rounded. I kind of expected Park to come in and do his thing and kind of take this one. You know, Tebow, as we mentioned earlier about Gatekeeper, he kind of seems like that. You know, not a guy I feel like when I think about is on this giant surge for the title. So, but hey, man, you won the split decision, and honestly, I think it was a good call. As much as I feel like Park had more momentum behind him, I do feel like Tebow won that fight. So hats off to him. Uriah Hall comes in, man. This is one of those fights where, kind of like Soto before him and some of these other guys that drop in last minute, man, you almost, or at least for me, I want to see these guys win, man. It's so storybook to see, like, what if Ron Stallings had come in and just, like, dominated Uriah Hall or knocked him out or whatever it may be, man. It could have been amazing. We did have the doctor stoppage, and if you guys got a chance to see any of the pictures or the video on this, I mean, that thing was like this. So it was definitely a good stoppage. I thought Stallings was doing pretty good, man. You got to give it to him for taking it on such super amazing short notice, and I think he definitely won himself a second fight under the Zuffa banner. So, and I'm pretty sure he's going to get it from the way everything sounded. So definitely shouts out to him. And then something that I really enjoyed all week long, you know, I just talked about how I felt like Cerrone had hit this stride. He just on this level, this hunger, man. It's like, let's get after it. And I felt like he was going to take this third fight, and everybody's telling me, you know, man, the history of people who have lost 2 in a row to win the third one is so incredibly small, and you know, Benson's this, Benson's that, but I've always kind of felt like Benson was a point fighter, and although we didn't get a truly like exciting, thrilling battle, you know, it was a little bit more of a sparring match. I felt like Cerrone did win the fight. Benson might have won with points. He was doing a lot of like punches to the thighs, and there wasn't a lot of fire in there. And I felt like Cerrone had a little more of that, plodded forward during most of it. So, again, it's a fight that a lot of people disagree with the results of that. I am not one of them. But, hey, Benson, listen to me, dude. You yourself have gotten some decisions that I don't think that you deserve. So it kind of comes around, man. If that's the style that you bring, you have to accept what comes with it. But it was a good fight, and I think that it really set Cerrone up for some fights that are probably more exciting than if we were to have Benson in those situations. Not to say he's not exciting. I just think we've seen him face a lot of those guys, and Cerrone's kind of on the come up now in that breaking into that elite Final 5 level. I believe rank 3 or something like that. And then the main event, man, the hype train, Conor McGregor rolling in, delivering once more. A lot of people counted Seaver out. I did not count Seaver out, man. I did not feel like he was necessarily set up to just go in there and get his, get it handed to him. I really felt like throughout the round he showed the potential to fight. I also felt like in the actual beforehand, he seemed like the kind of guy who could do it, man. I mean, he's tenacious, he's compact, he's got also a unique style. He's got punching power, good chin. He's been in some deep wars. I know that he's very fueled and driven guy. But we all knew that Conor was coming in with something special, and he once again proved that in Boston, man. I mean, he really put it down. He almost got the first round finished like he predicted. It went a little bit into the second round, man, but it very quickly did we see Conor McGregor taking everything out of Seaver, really. I mean, he had a couple of good moments, but really nothing major. Which lines McGregor up with the most exciting featherweight fight that we've had in a long time, in my opinion, versus Jose Aldo, man. Let me tell you, the fight. I mean, how could you not be excited about that concept, man? Jose Aldo is real business, man. I mean, I like Conor. He's very aggressive. He's very exciting. A lot of skills. Very unique. He does have that it factor. It's not just height, man. But I mean, Jose Aldo is the crown prince for a reason, and it's going to be a good one, man. So great card in Boston, man. It was amazing, and I think one of the most exciting things is from the co-main event and the main event, what that says about the future of some of these great fights we are going to get here in 2015, man. So on behalf of MMA Therapy, man, go get yourself a dose. Get your prescription in, man. This is our Eric Ellison. Y'all have a good one.
That was Eric Ellison with his coverage from UFC Fight Night Boston. Now on the same page, we're going back to Eric Ellison for his coverage of UFC Fight Night Stockholm.
What up, guys? Our Eric Ellison back with MMA Therapy, man. We're here to talk about Alexander Gustafsson versus Rumble Johnson, and not just the fight itself, but what that leaves us with for the latter half of 2015. This was one of those fights that was very exciting. We've been watching the rise of Rumble Johnson. Really, we've been seeing the rise of the striker, a power puncher more specifically, kind of coming back into the UFC. We started to roll towards wrestling. It's still very wrestling heavy, some of the great champs, but we have seen guys like Robbie Lawler, Conor McGregor, Anthony Johnson making these huge comebacks, man. Just going in there, getting it done. And I don't think anybody expected Stockholm to turn out like it was. I think the fight was less than 2 minutes. Johnson just proves that if he can put his hands on you, if he could touch you, he could change everything, because the fight is going one way, and as soon as Gustafsson got hit, as soon as Johnson got a good strike in there, you saw the game plan change. You saw the takedown immediately become effective. It's always a big sign, man. If you guys have been a long-time MMA fans, when you see the takedowns start coming faster and faster, especially from someone with so much striking prowess, you know that the strikes of the opponent are having a big effect, or that they're possibly even hurt, rocked. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And that's what Johnson did. He came out. He cut off the angles. He made every strike count, and he negated the space of Gus almost immediately. And it doesn't take a lot to see now that Gus Rumble has won via KO and has a shot at John Jones. You can look back at DC versus Jones, which just happened also. DC's a small guy. It's compact, strong, and we see how John dealt with that. We saw that DC was able to get in there. He was able to land a pretty decent amount of punches. So, take Daniel Cormier and give him Anthony Johnson's strength and power in his strikes, and you tell me how that fight would have played out. So we're very excited. We know Rumble's only weakness that we have saw really has been being submitted. But that was the old Rumble. When we see this new version of Anthony, guys trying to take him down and they're like hitting a brick wall, man. It's very different. He's throwing Phil Davis around like he'd never wrestled a day in his life. And I believe he's on like an 8-10 fight win streak, most of them being KOs. So this is going to be a huge, huge fight. I don't see how Jones and Johnson isn't going to be huge. I don't see how it isn't going to be a big sell. I don't see how it isn't going to be a giant fight. And to be honest, I think John Jones might, it's something Joe Rogan says all the time. Oh, he's got the most dangerous opponent in front of him. Oh, this is possibly the worst matchup ever. That's just that's how they hype it up, man. But I can honestly say this time, I do feel like Gustafsson won the original fight against John Jones, but the fact that he lost didn't make the next match any less exciting. I wasn't totally stoked to see Gus versus Jones part 2, but I'm not any less excited to see Johnson versus Jones, and neither should you, man. This is a massively exciting fight. You've got a guy who can literally put people to sleep like a lullaby versus the current greatest champ that they've had at 205. It's going to be an amazing fight, and if Rumble wins, I mean, it still makes a lot of exciting things happen. Of course, the UFC is real big on giving immediate rematches to champions, especially ones that have been long-time champions. That tends to happen. So if Johnson wins, you can expect to see an immediate rematch. But I do think things like a second fight with Gustafsson for the title would be amazing. I think seeing John and Gus fight in a #1 contender fight would be an awesome thing too. And there's such a slew of dudes at 205. I just feel like it's gonna be great, man. Also, all you Gus fans, man, hey, listen, he's gonna be back. I promise you. Losses like that fast, especially in Stockholm, like he lost in front of everybody, he'll be back in the cage sooner than later. He'll be ready to get in there, get it done, and get himself back on the winning track. As far as Anthony and John, I know John had a lot of pausing between the DC fight, and I think that he'll fight sooner than later. I think the UFC is kind of been looking to rebuild its star power. They lost a lot of guys. A lot of people retired. A lot of people are on the fallout level. At the same time, they have this massive wave of upcoming guys. And, the name recognition is not as powerful as it was a few years ago. So a fight like Jose Aldo versus Conor McGregor, a fight like John Jones versus Anthony Johnson, these are not fights that they're going to sit on all year long. I don't believe, especially John probably with all his issues, the cocaine stuff, I'm sure he's ready to get that behind him in the news. So this fight may actually be coming a little sooner. Again, with Rumble, I mean, he fought for like a minute, so I'm sure he's probably ready to go. So look for that announcement to be made sooner than later. As far as Gustafsson goes, probably more or less the same thing. He's probably going to come back pretty soon, especially given the fact that, again, the fight was so short. And he probably also wants to get a W under his belt and get some of this dirty news out from under his name. So Stockholm was an awesome card, man. And I got to touch on this too, man. I don't just want to talk on the main event. I want to speak about another part of it was the Dan Henderson Gegard Mousasi fight. I don't know if you saw it, but I know Dan Henderson was okay in my book. He got knocked down. He was still moving. We've seen Dan in countless wars where, especially as his career's gone on, where he gets knocked down. I mean, of course, we can obviously point back to the Shogun fight as the easiest example, but there are plenty others, man. I have a couple of good ref friends down here in South Carolina, and they've got this kind of 5-second rule, like, like dropping a piece of food. If you're unsure, or it even looks slightly, or you're not 100% and you're not in the correct line of sight, man, you give it 5 more seconds. You count to 5 and then do your thing, and I think that that mentality could have really helped here, because Dan seemed ready to go. He seemed ready to take care of things, man. I'm not saying he was going to win. I'm not saying he's not. We'll never know now because, in my opinion, of a bad ref stoppage, they replayed it. Dan looked fine. But it's the UFC, man. That's just the way it is. So it was a good card. A lot of good fights in Stockholm, man. A lot of good finishes. Kind of like UFC Boston the week before. Interesting enough, we had this big Irish card that's in Boston, and then we have like 5 or 6 knockouts on one card, which is pretty big in the UFC considering how many decisions have been, or the decisions have been more and more as we go, kind of touching on that wrestling like we were talking about earlier. But nonetheless, man, Stockholm was a fun night. The main event was really what it was all about. And Anthony Johnson proves that he's a different guy, a different fighter, that he can knock anybody out. I mean, think about the strikes you've seen Gus take in the past, the power strikers he's fought in the past, his fight with Jones. And then compare that to just how fast Anthony was able to get him out of there. So an imminent match with John Jones is on its way. It's a awesome fight. It's very exciting. From what you saw from Anthony's ability to negate size and distance and all these things. Really, again, man, he only needs 1 or 2 really good punches to change everything. And so we're going to see how John does with that, man. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be great. I, for one, was shocked. I can't say shocked, man. I wasn't shocked that Johnson got the KO win, because if he was going to win, that's how he was going to do it. But I guess I was more or less shocked that Gus was out of there so fast. So it says a lot of things. It puts a lot of ducks in a row for another mega title fight from the UFC this year. That's all I got from you, man. I appreciate you sitting down on this session of MMA Therapy, getting it in up here, in here, and in here. My name is Eric Ellison, man. Stick with us all year long. We're always doing it big.
That was Eric Ellison with his coverage from UFC Fight Night Stockholm. And that about wraps up our first episode here at MMA Therapy. Please take the time to go like us on Facebook, and our webpage is also linked on our Facebook, so check it out for daily news and fight results. Also, add us at Twitter at MMA Therapy 1000. This is James Mon for MMA Therapy, your fix for all things MMA, and I'll see you at the fights.